So, a couple of months ago, Amazon released an anthology series called Secret Level that is basically just a collection of short films centered around various video game franchises, and one of those was set in the Armored Core universe starring Keanu Reeves, and it is really, really good. Armored Core, made by the same guys who brought us Dark Souls, but like way before Dark Souls, this shit goes back all the way to 1997, is set in a cyberpunk dystopia where corporations battle it out using giant vehicles, often hiring mercenaries who have highly customized mechs themselves called, you guessed it, Armored Cores. I've only played the most recent Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon, but oh my god, it was a game that I have not stopped thinking about ever since it came out back in 2023. And it quickly became my favorite FromSoft game. The frantic, high-octane combat activating my neurons more intensely than anything I've played since. So yeah, I'm a fan. And when I saw that there was going to be an animated adaptation starring cyberpunk legend himself, Keanu Reeves, I was curious, to say the least, and had one question on my mind. Keanu, I imagine, is not a cheap actor to hire out, so does the writing and the animation justify the cost of having him on? To me, absolutely. I watched it with otherwise no expectations and was surprised at how tight everything was, how much detail there is in each scene, and I was impressed at how Keanu Reeves depicted a drugged up, augmented, PTSD riddled Armored Core pilot. Because I liked it so much, I'm gonna yap about it for a bit while going through some details and observations in this short film that I thought were cool and or easy to miss. Spoilers, obviously, but it's like 10 minutes long. Go see it yourself if you really want, but I recommend this episode of Secret Level to both fans of the series and people who simply like dystopian sci-fi broadly. I'm the Rat Shepherd. Please like and subscribe and all that jazz for more sci-fi and fantasy content. Let's get to it. Right from the get-go, we see Keanu, who I'm simply going to call the pilot from here on out, is a little unhinged and has a voice inside of his head. For those who have not played the games, many AC pilots, particularly the older generations, were modified and enhanced to better controlled and armored core, giving them faster reflexes, higher pain thresholds, and a lot of mental health issues. The voice in his head is likely a core entity, a particularly malicious sounding one at that, and for those who have not played AC6, you might be asking, what the fuck is a coral entity? Okay, so you know Dune, right? I'm just gonna assume you know what Dune is. The movies have sort of changed the sci-fi landscape of the past few years. They're a major book series. Get with the culture, okay? Coral is basically spice from Dune, a powerful fuel that the rest of the galaxy really wants. The difference between spice and coral is that sometimes coral is sentient and can communicate with augmented humans. This entity, known in the credits simply as The Voice, is voiced by Aaron Vett, who also voiced the coral entity Air in Armored Core 6, which is pretty cool. Though I do think they are different characters given how different their personalities are. But this is important to note because if you don't know what coral is, you might assume that the pilot is just straight up hallucinating, which is a fair assumption given that the voice, both the character and the pilot's internal monologue, are pretty unreliable. In the games, we never see a human face, only the pilot's AC and their insignia, almost like a coat of arms in a way. And while I do like how thematically important this is in the game since it adds a level of dehumanization to this alienating cyberpunk world, I love that we finally get a glimpse of real humans in this adaptation. I love how grimy, unhinged, and anemic the pilot is, and how the writers quickly show that augmented humans are different by showing his fast reflexes and striking the guy with a mug of beer, then later how swiftly he yoinks a cigarette from that other guy, and then how easily he is able to grab the cigarette without looking while in the snow, and how sharp and detailed his vision is as he gazes upon a cockroach. After that scene, the pilot gets a call from his handler that there is a job that needs to be done, so he heads towards the garage and we finally get to see his armored core, giving the viewer the first glimpse into what it's like for an actual person to interact and pilot such a thing. As he puts on a specialized jacket that seems to connect with various user interfaces in the armored core, we get to see the pilot's many tattoos and scars and how sickly gaunt he is, especially his skinny legs, which makes sense given that piloting is mostly a mental thing, not a physical thing. When playing AC6, I imagine that the interiors of an armored core would be a mix of high-future technology mixed with grimy, pragmatic realism. A cramped space the size of a coffin with enough sci-fi doodads to justify how the pilots survive the high G-forces and split-second decision-making the series is known for, and man, I was not disappointed. It's not the elegant, fluid-filled chambers in an Evangelion, nor do they have the sleek, augmented reality look of modern Gundams, but it's not archaic either. When he sits in the pilot chair, various cords and wires are attached to his body, fluids are injected, and, all the necessary things connecting him to the armored core that keeps him alive under the extreme conditions pilots put themselves through. Then we finally get a full look of his armored core, named Streaker. No matter what, every person's vehicle, whether it be a car or motorcycle or AC, says something about its owner, and Streaker's design says quite a lot about the kind of person this pilot is. Streaker is what I would call a brawler AC. Lightweight but still armored, with pseudo-reverse legs which lends a balance of stability and mobility, wielding a sword, a shield, a shotgun, and some missiles. A somewhat unoptimized build that relies on high skill from the pilot and a ferocious, manic fighting styles that utilizes aggression and spite to achieve victory. Though you can't exactly make this AC and AC6 yourself due to some parts and configurations being different, on my own I sort of made a similar build myself a year ago which requires a similar fighting philosophy. My AC was called Dépouille, which is Cajun French for one who is a mess. On my shoulders, I have 2 orbiting machine guns that track and shoot targets on their own, a laser dagger in my left hand, and a shotgun in my right. Although this AC is only lightly armored and can get destroyed easily if overwhelmed, when playing ferociously, whenever I'm locked in, I can destroy opponents easily. And I think that the pilot that Reeves plays has a similar mindset here. All aggression, all id, nothing held back. I like that it evokes a fighting style of a knight, almost like a callback to Dark Souls, while also looking strange and alien, like an armored shrimp. There's a really good line delivery as he approaches his target. He says,
"Let's make some money."
And this music kicks in as the battle starts. In my Armored Core 6 review, I described the combat as ballet at 500 miles per hour. And the adaptation, again, does not disappoint in depicting this idea. The combat being both elegant and brutal, pretty but barbaric, as our pilots fight a 2 versus 1 among the wreckage of some impossibly large vehicle. After the first one is destroyed, there is a sort of Western duel quick draw setup scene that is somewhat subverted. The guy with the Gatling gun stood no chance and is killed in a blink of an eye. It's not even close. Soon after, the stakes are increased again as a pilot faces not 2, but a handful of other armored cores, including a heavy tetrapod, and the pilot is pushed to the limit of his skill, pushed on by what seems like ego and spite and drugs and, nothing else. AC6 is full of jaw-droppingly cool moments, and the scene where our pilot rams another AC into the stratosphere before cutting it in half and then passes out from the G-forces before waking up at the last moment is one of those, like the epitome of cool, just absolutely badass, and I loved it so much. He deals with the other guys in creative ways and is later faced with a broken down AC with a pilot inside. A pilot who our Coral friend says is an augmented human, like him. Throughout this short film, we have gotten hints and dialogues that indicate that the pilot is deeply lonely and untethered to this world. He thinks he is the last of his kind. Seeing another survivor who's now calling for help is the perfect opportunity to find connection and companionship outside of the bundle of unstable isotopes inside of his head. The survivor reaches out a hand, and the pilot extends a finger of his AC, almost evoking the painting of the creation of Adam, the famous one. I think the best twists are the ones that you can see coming at the perfect distance. If you're able to see a twist too far away, it's predictable and not surprising. But if you aren't able to see it at all, it can come across as abrupt or nonsensical. This twist came at the exact right time. As he extended his finger towards the surviving pilot, my subconscious was able to tell me, hey, he's not really slowing down, is he? A moment before the finger pushes through the survivor's hand and pops his brain like a bug. And then the pilot says,
"Nobody's like me."
"No one is like you indeed." And the voice responds,
"Nobody's like us."
This was a very satisfying ending, in part because him choosing ego and isolation instead of connection and community is exactly the kind of cyberpunk dystopian storytelling I love about Armored Core. Sure, all the endings in AC6 are morally complicated, but the series as a whole has never shied away from the bleak and nihilistic aspects of the genre. So yeah, that's about all my thoughts on it. I'm left satisfied but wanting more, which I think is a great thing to aim for when making a short film. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm the Rat Shepherd. See y'all for the next one.